everybody. Welcome back to the Forgotten Podcast. I'm Maya Thompson.
And I'm Maya McCord.
And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the infamous Zodiac killer. McCord, have you heard about the Zodiac killer before?
Yes, the Zodiac killer is very famous. Started killings in the late 60s, early 70s, along with a lot of other serial killers that started around the early 70s, like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and the Manson family and stuff, Yeah, so very infamous.
And if you guys out there didn't know, the Zodiac killer, he started his killing spree around like the late 60s, early 70s in Northern California. And he really only had 5 confirmed murders.
Mm-hmm.
2 people survived, right? But he himself, he said that he killed at least 37 people.
Yes.
And so what was kind of unique about the Zodiac killer was that he sent letters and ciphers to the newsrooms, to the police station about him committing these murders. And he had all of these facts that nobody would know unless it was actually the perpetrator. And so there's a lot of films, a lot of movies about the Zodiac because it is still one of the biggest unsolved cases in American crime history. So have you watched anything about the Zodiac?
It was a while ago. I watched a documentary on it. Honestly, I want to get back and watch some more. But recently, though, I did end up watching an interview that they had with one of his victims, Brian Hartnell. Yeah, Hartnell. And he just stated that he thought the Zodiac killer was just a regular, just somebody just regularly trying to rob him and Cecilia Shepard. That it was just normal robbery. Didn't think it was on his life actually, and he was like, I was going to try to help him, try to give him some money. But that didn't end up happening. He ended up getting stabbed 6 times in the back, and he did end up surviving, but to be able to give this interview, of course. But I thought it was fascinating that he was just considered, like, he had on a mask, a black mask. You couldn't really tell who it was really, but considering that he thought they was gonna die, he probably took it off. So that's how he got, But it's just crazy how some of the victims that survived were able to perceive and think of every little detail.
Right.
Because they're trying to survive. So I thought that's interesting.
Right, and one thing about the Zodiac is he usually targeted couples. Like the first victims he targeted, you just talked about it, they were a couple. They were in their car. Yeah. And they got stabbed, and the girl died. She succumbed to her injuries, but the guy, he lived. And one of the prime suspects of somebody who could potentially be the Zodiac, because his identity is still unknown, was a man named Arthur Allen. And the reason why police were so on him was because that he had a similar caliber gun to what the Zodiac used. He even wore a Zodiac, and he also was somebody who had sexual misconduct allegations against kids. And sources said that he even claimed himself to be the Zodiac. But obviously, since he's not convicted, they didn't have enough evidence. And there were even more people that, were some of the top suspects of being the Zodiac because maybe they looked like him in the sketch. There was even a guy who was somebody's cousin. He sent in a tip to the police that, this could be, my cousin could be the Zodiac. And it just really showed how serial killers operated back in that time, because it's such a different dynamic than today. Do you want to talk about how that was way different back then to how there's DNA evidence now?
Oh, now a lot of the things would not slide today.
Right.
Like a lot of it, like, cause he was able to, and like I can put a connection towards how he kind of reacted to how kind of Jack the Ripper kind of was.
Right.
Cause you know a lot of the things that they did and got away with would not fly today. Like
Exactly.
there's DNA evidence now. There's just a lot of things that you know definitely would not be able to fly and would get caught like in like a little bit. You know, it wouldn't take a lot. But yeah.
And even when, so the Zodiac, his last confirmed like murder was on October 11th, 1969, when he got into a taxi, and you know later on they knew it was the Zodiac, but he shot the taxi driver. His name was Paul Stein, and that was the last confirmed kill of the Zodiac. And then after that, nothing. He went dark. There's no more connected murders to him right now. So what do you actually think? Like, what is your own theory about maybe who the Zodiac was or like what happened to him?
Well, the thing is, I know probably within all of the suspects that they probably have, you know, they do have their specific ones that they're like, he might be the one. Not to mention that even in like one of his ciphers that he gave out to the police and to some journalists, I know, he gave out little symbols or whatever. Like he said that like one time on one of them, he said like his name, supposedly his name, but most of the time it really had nothing to do with the killings when they deciphered them. It was just, you know, certain things that tried to make it out different as it seemed. Like he was enjoyed the killing, or he was like psychotic to a certain degree. And I know they would probably take in some of whatever he probably said in there and probably try to apply it to the certain victims. But it's kind of weird that like none of them, well, he didn't give anything about it, but you know, it's kind of weird that you know, it was nothing said about it. Like he just left it out in the open, kind of like that. You know, of course he's not trying to get caught, but you get what I'm saying?
Right. And I saw like a whole bunch of like sources online, like the term is called like a megalomaniac or something, someone who, you know, needs power, who wants to be dominant. And that's one of the main things that separated him from other serial killers was his letters and him taunting the police and him, you know, giving clues about his identity and who he was. And it probably fed into his ego that nobody could figure out who he was. You know, he had the entire California area and even the world scared of him because of the things he was done. And as I said earlier, like, this was a different time back then. You know, now people are more, you know, security driven versus back then people would probably leave their doors unlocked. Right? But now in this age of like social media and everything, I don't think a Zodiac could have gone out for that long and not have been identified.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of serial killers definitely wouldn't be able to like go through that, because a lot of them kind of followed a certain path. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like they use the advantage of not having DNA, and a lot of times like to be able to get away real quick to their advantage.
Right.
So a lot of times they wouldn't have really like been able to, because people will instantly be on it because of social media. Like you wouldn't be able to, like, just like what when the Atlanta serial killer who was killing like a lot of black kids, like he would not be able to go through anything because, you know, people will be already on it.
So. And like this, our age is so internet driven. Like there's so many things that like is gonna get caught on camera. There's data behind it. Like everything is connected. And you know, in today's day and age, like we're so social justice oriented that, you know, people are always trying to find petitions and things like that to like help find like somebody that was gone missing or that was killed. But honestly, for me, I think the Zodiac actually, I think he was imprisoned, and that's why he probably stopped his killing spree.
Really?
Yeah, I think maybe he got caught for another crime in prison, or maybe it was even somebody who, you know, even was one of the prime suspects. They just didn't have enough evidence. But thank you all for watching today. This was our episode about the Zodiac. I'm Maya Thompson.
I'm Maya McCord.
And tune in next time.
Bye.